Hi, good evening. This is Rappler Recap. I am Dwight De Leon. Tonight, we are taking you back to the events that unfolded today at Palacio del Gobernador, where the Commission on Elections has been accepting substitution and withdrawal papers for the 2022 national elections. We are joined today by our veteran reporters, Bea Cupin and Lian Buan. So they're both covering the main actors in today's substitution saga. So let's begin first with Sara Duterte Carpio, the Davao City Mayor, finally uh, joining the national race, but no, siguro surprisingly or unsurprisingly, running for vice president. So siguro bigyan ko lang kayo ng konting background. It was past 1 p.m. today and Comelec spokesman James Jimenez was conducting his press briefing, but he had to cut it short, and he told us that he told reporters that we don't want to miss this. And a few minutes later, yung placeholders ng Lakas CMD were already withdrawing their candidacy. And then a few minutes more, the authorized representative of Davao City Mayor Sara already filed her substitution papers. So first, I want to go to you, Bea. Did you expect this? Parang isa ba to sa mga scenarios na talagang feeling natin ay feasible?
Yeah. Syempre alam naman natin, 'di ba, sobrang tagal na yung pressure at mga panawagan kay Mayor Sara Duterte to run for a national post, primarily president, but basta national post in 2022. She has been very hesitant. Parang maraming iterations yung statements niya, no? Pero kung baga, after COC filing week, there was a relative 2 weeks of mga 2 weeks of silence because she was diagnosed with COVID. And then after that, parang may silence ulit. She went to Cebu, met with Bongbong Marcos Jr., nag-meet sila ni Senator Ronald De La Rosa, who was the PDP Laban Standard Bearer, and then, just this week, sunod-sunod yung mga pangyayari. Literally, parang kumbaga, all at once nangyari. So, November 9, she formally withdrew her candidacy as Davao City Mayor. Re-election sana yun, her third and last consecutive term. And then after that, 2 days after, she flew to Balisen to meet the House Speaker for his birthday. And then within the same day, sunod-sunod to literally, she went to Balisen and then she left Hugpong ng Pagbabago. That's a regional party based in Davao. After leaving HNP, she attended a wedding in Silang Cavite, kasal ng anak ni Lakas CMD Chairman, Senator Bong Revilla. And then after the wedding, nag-oath-taking siya as a member of Lakas CMD. And kanina nga, formally, she filed her candidacy as Lakas CMD's vice president candidate. Is it expected? It's parang it's both a surprise and both and also something that people saw coming, right? Wildly popular, she's been doing very well in presidential preference surveys specifically. Yun, so parang parang this concludes months of waiting, months of speculation. Syempre, her detractors or yung political opponents would say na, this was parang kumbaga drama lang to, matagal na naming inexpecto. They would say otherwise. But, officially, she is now a vice president, but without a standard bearer, which is kind of unique in this case. So, pero balita ko, may nag-adopt sa kanya as a vice presidential candidate. Lian, you'd be able to talk to us about that.
Yes, Bea, thank you so much. Mabilis ang pangyayari, no? I don't think it took 30 minutes after you guys, Dwight, reported from Comelec na nag-file na ng COC through a representative si Mayor Sara Duterte na nag-send na agad ang resolution ng Partido Federal ng Pilipinas. PFP, by the way, is the party of former Senator Bongbong Marcos. He's also now the chairman of the party. So, throwback lang dati, matagal siyang nationalista party under the Villars. Now, he is under the wing of the very young PFP party. So, wala pang 30 minutes after mag-file ni Mayor Sara ng COC, meron ng resolution ang PFP adopting Mayor Sara Duterte as its vice presidential bet and that it will endorse Mayor Sara as the VP to its presidential bet and standard bearer, Bongbong Marcos. I guess, just following you, Bea, is it a surprise? It is, yes. It is both a surprise and expected thing. Kasi nakita naman natin yung kanilang visibility. Ngayong linggong ito, it started in Cebu and then nag-withdraw na at sunod-sunod ng mga pangyayari. Kaya para sa aming mga nagko-cover kay BBM, parang medyo inasahan na namin kasi yun naman yung overture ni BBM for the longest time ever since he said that he had courted President Rodrigo Duterte to be his running mate sana. But you know that he has also been di ba pumunta nga sila ni Senator Amy Marcos sa Davao way back para bisitahin si Mayor Sara. So you know that they're working on a strong alliance. So yung kawalan niya ng VP, which some would think parang ang weak naman yan, walang VP, we knew that hindi sila papayag na weak yung ilalatag nilang tandem. So we knew in our guts that something was in the offing. At ito na nga, ang in the offing. But I'll go to you again, Bea, kasi nakita naman natin yung power dynamic nito. Lakas CMD is now in the picture. It's Gloria Arroyo, Bong Revilla, all powerful politicians. But I think Senator Revilla sent a statement na wala pang categorical if they're adopting Bongbong as their presidential bet.
Yeah. I think yung striking din from Lakas CMD today nga, basically sinabi nila hindi sila magkakaroon ng standard bearer. Nag-withdraw kanina Dwight, if I'm not mistaken, di ba? Yung original na nag-file ng presidential as president under Lakas CMD. But they did say today walang standard bearer yung party, pero mag-a-adopt sila ng isang standard bearer for their vice presidential candidate Sara Duterte. Now, sino itong adopted na to? Maraming hints on who it might be. I mean, honestly, I think the leading suspicious, hindi suspicion, pero yung parang most likely to be the adopted standard bearer for Sara Duterte would be Bongbong Marcos. Kasi the other day din naman si Martin Romualdez, incidentally the cousin of Mr. Marcos, who is also the president of Lakas CMD, sinabi niya rin naman na they are looking for alliances, and he did mention PFP as among the parties that they could possibly ally with in the lead up to 2022. Which is a little, yung I have to point out lang na medyo strange na ganito ka-late yung negotiations ng alliances ng national parties. But we see, people aligning, people forging alliances ngayon. Kaso parang medyo may combo breaker, ano bang term ngayon ng mga tao? May deal breaker na nangyari, and it involves no less than the president. I understand. Parang hindi ako nag-cover kanina, no? Pero, di ba, President Duterte himself made an appearance at COMELEC. That's not something you see every day, the sitting president.
But something you've seen twice. Twice in the season.
Actually, thrice. Technically.
Dalawang beses siya nagpunta nung COC filing week. So parang, in a way, parang you're sort of, alam yun, parang expecting it na kung pumunta siya before, bakit hindi siya pupunta ngayon? And by around 2 p.m. today, nagkaroon na kami ng kaunting tip na there were PSG members within the area. And while wala kaming nakitang PSG agad, well, syempre kung may usok, may apoy. So we have Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa saying he's withdrawing his candidacy. Then dumating na yung paunti-unti yung mga members of PDP Laban. Then we have Communications Secretary Martin Andanar saying that Bongo will arrive. Tapos by past 3, dumating na si Duterte. Now, while Senator Bongo withdrew his vice presidential bid and ran for president under PDDS, may flinote ding another idea itong si President si Communications Secretary Andanar na magfa-file din daw si President Duterte for Vice President on Monday. Now, kung totoo yun or joke time lang ba tayo ni Andanar, we will have to see, given that we also talked to Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi and Greco Bellica of PDDS, and yung tone nila medyo parang clueless sila, or maybe they're trying to conceal some information pa. That said, is it possible? I guess kasi ito yung mga tanong ng mga tao. Yes, it's possible that Duterte would file his substitution papers for vice president, he only needs to be a member of PDDS for that to happen.
Dwight, can I ask a follow-up? So
Yes.
merong president at VP ang PDDS before this.
Yes.
And who are they? Kilala ba natin? Are they prominent?
I forgot the name of the vice president, pero kanina parang sabi sa akin ni Greco, parang this is someone from the military. Then the presidential bet, yung nag-withdraw, if I'm not mistaken, na tatay ni Greco Bellica.
His father.
Mhm.
Yeah. So they had these candidates na already kasi yung Lakas CMD rin naman. Kaya nga rin naman nakapasok si Sara as the vice presidential candidate of Lakas CMD. They did file, or at least two of their members rather, filed for president and vice president of Lakas CMD. May isang member nagsabi na placeholder lang yon. Other members would use less direct language and referring to the two members who have since withdrawn their candidacy. So yun din pala yung kailangan i-note, no, sa Lakas CMD. Meron silang VP in Sara Duterte, but wala pa silang presidential candidate as of the end of day ng substitution day sa COMELEC.
Pero nag-withdraw na yung presidential candidate nila. Ana, yung name. But Bea, this would not have happened if, alam mo, nag-decide na lang siguro si Sara Duterte and Bongo to team up. But that did not happen. So ano ba yung dynamics sa family, sa alliances nila, na at the end of the day, nag-iba-iba sila ng landas, at least for now.
Yeah. I think one thing that's important to note, no, parang the whole time that Sara seemed hesitant about running in 2022, or parang she was saying na I'm seeking re-election as Davao of Mayor City, parang isa lang yung sobrang clear ng statement regarding a national post. Una, na hindi siya sasali ng PDP laban, the ruling party of which President Duterte is chairman currently, although di natin alam with the entry of PDDS, parang ano na mangyayari sa leadership roles nila, and that she would not be PDP laban standard bearer. Parang malinaw na malinaw yun for Sara Duterte since day one. I don't want to speculate on any personal dynamics or whatever, because I know people will want us to do that. Pero I think one thing is clear, and Duterte himself, the president, has said this, that Sara has a mind of her own. She acts independently from her father, which sounds like the parang bare minimum yun. Pero in the context of Philippine politics, di ba? You normally see children and parents in the same political clan. Parang kung anong gusto ng magulang, susunod lang doon yung anak or whatever. Although, fine, there are exceptions. You see, children and parents going head-to-head to each other. Pero anyway, back to Sara. Allies have characterized her as, very independent-minded, very strong-minded. And if you recall, in 2019, Sara Duterte did have a hand in the ouster of a major Duterte ally in the person of Pantaleon Alvarez, who was then House Speaker. Paano natin nalaman to? May sources. And then later on, Duterte himself said na si Sara yung nagpaandar nun. Kasi ostensibly yung reason daw, parang Speaker Alvarez at that time mentioned something about impeaching Duterte. Of course, that upset Sara. And then, nakita nyo na natin in a very grand manner, di ba? Napatalsik niya yung isang House Speaker, isang major ally ng Pangulo. So, even on the national level, even as she is, like, technically yung experience niya ay nasa local politics pa lang, you already see how cunning she is as a politician, that she already wields this power, no? Even as mayor of Davao. And then, if you recall, also in 2019, di ba, yung hugpong ng pagbabago, the party that she left recently, bagaman regional party siya, may bit-bit silang senatorial candidates at si Sara na mismo nag-endorse ng Senate slate na to. So, anyway, yeah, you see the power that Sara Duterte wields. Yung tanong lang dito, parang how does that play with the power that Duterte, the father, still has. But I think in this discussion of the Dutertes, like the father versus daughter potentially in the VP race, there's one key ally that we already mentioned actually kanina, but the Marcos clan, like where do they figure in all of this? The discussions between the Duterte allied, apparently these are in effect Duterte allied personalities and parties, no, in Philippine politics. Parang saan si Marcos in the middle of these discussions, Lian?
Siyempre marami na tayong hot takes at marami ng punditry na nangyayari, no? Siguro ang una kong picture na ilalatag para sa mga nanonood is sino bang mas powerful, si Sara or si BBM? Because it's very obvious that as you said, Bea, Sarah wields so much power to the extent that yung mga naniwala or di natin alam kung totoo silang sinabihan na tatakbo siyang pangulo, a lot of them are disappointed today that she ran for VP. So, alam mo yun, parang ang daming gustong tumakbo talaga sa pangulo. So that speaks of the power that she has. But we also know that the Marcos clan, whether it's Aimee or Bongbong, is also very powerful. So ang naglalaro sa utak ng maraming tao is sino yung nanalo sa negosasyong to. There's a hot take na nakikita natin that it was a power struggle between Sara and BBM, and in the end, BBM won kasi si Sara yung nagbigay daan. Meron din namang mga nagsasabing this was the deal all along, that the alliance between Aimee and Sara, yun nga dun sa ouster ni Pantaleon Alvarez that was also brokered by GMA in 2019, is still at play now. Yun yung mga parang doon mo titignan kung sino ba yung mas powerful sa kanila. But as Bongbong Marcos said kanina, may nagpa-interview siya sa TV, sinabi niya kanina na basta Marcos at Duterte yung nagsama, there's wala nang mas heavenly pang tandem doon. So at the end of the day, kung sino man ang mas powerful sa kanilang dalawa, it matters that they're allied. Kaya siguro yung the surprise today is not that Sara ran for VP. The surprise today is that Bongo and President Duterte went ahead. Kung totoo man to, kung magkakatotoo, or kung power play lang na naman ba to, siguro yun yung mas itatanong pa natin hanggang sa Lunes. At to also add to the dynamics of it all, napansin ko lang very interesting na we know that President Duterte is irked by the Senate hearings on Farmally. Ayaw niyo yun, ban nga yung cabinet members, di ba? And syempre yung the accountability of Yusek Lloyd Christopher Lau would inadvertently extend to Senator Bongo kasi sila yung staff dati. And si Senator Aimee Marcos really helped steer that hearing. Very key person siya sa hearing ngayon. Alam natin, lagi lang matunog sila Senator Drilon, Senator Gordon. But Senator Aimee Marcos was a really fundamental actor and player to steer that Senate Farmally hearings to the detriment of Senator Bongo and President Duterte. And there's one very interesting hearing for me where Senator Aimee Marcos brought out an internal audit report from the DBM na ang nagpagawa is former Secretary Wendell Avisado. And siya lang ang may hawak nun. Gordon didn't have it, Drilon didn't have it, and that internal audit was very damaging to PSDBM and Yusek Lau, and by extension, Senator Bongo. So you can see traces of internal dynamics or very internal conflict, ganun. So ano bang nangyari? Is it Sara Duterte Marcos versus Rodi Duterte Bongo? We don't know. Siguro the fan base or their allies would want them to unify much later. Sana siguro sa Lunes na. Pero I guess yan yung magandang tignan ngayon. Is there, as much as the opposition is trying to unite itself, the administration is also trying to unite itself. But my question, Bea, since you also covered the opposition in 2016, mas malyab siguro although may conflict and may dynamic sa administration, bang mas malyab yung tayo sa kanila at mas hirap talagang pag-unify ang opposition? What are your thoughts on this?
Sorry, I missed some of that. Medyo nag-lag ka ng kaunti. But as I understand, the difference between like the admin party leading into the election in 2016 compared to now, parang doon we I don't know if everyone knows this, but there were divisions within the Liberal Party in 2015 leading into 2016. May mga, not Liberal Party, but those allied with the late President Aquino. May mga divisions din yan. Pero at the end of the day, pagdating ng 2016, ng filing in 2015, unified yung front. Walang mga faction or whatever. If anything, naging clear, naging distinct na Vice President Jojo Binay, nag-throwback ako into 2016, na Vice President Jojo Binay, despite being close allies with Aquino and being family friends with the Aquinos. Like, naging clear na he is in the opposition. Anyway, in contrast, PDP Laban ngayon, early on pa lang, di ba? Parang it has two factions, right? And this, it also explains why Senator Go filed under PDDS and not under PDP Laban, and explain ata ni Secretary Cusi kanina sa mga reporters in the COMELEC na this is one of the reasons that they chose to file his candidacy under PDDS and not PDP Laban, kasi nga there is pending case between the two factions. Ironically, it was the Cusi faction who filed this case, asking COMELEC to declare the Manny Pacquiao and Coco Pimentel-led faction illegitimate, no? Pero yun, so parang, but that's the thing, like PDP Laban this whole week has been not entirely quiet, but they've been very, very terse with their statements. No? Parang nung nag-withdraw si Sara Duterte, parang yung statement lang nila is that they're keenly observing. When she joined PDP Laban, parang they are monitoring the developments in national politics. So parang, syempre yung question ng mga to, parang ano nangyari sa PDP Laban? Like, ito na ba talaga yung path to obscurity or irrelevance leading into 2022, which is weird because they're the dominant party in Philippine politics. But as we saw today, biglang they're in the headlines again. Kasi parang the whole weekday, it was just Sara Duterte, Lakas CMD, all in the headlines. But then suddenly now, we see Senator Go, President Duterte, the personalities of PDP Laban back in the headlines, back in the political sphere, no? Parang, or kumbaga yung zeitgeist ng politics sa national setting. But ironically, not carrying PDP Laban anymore, kasi yun nga, dahil sa complications of a fractured party, na-ditch tuloy yung PDP Laban. Ngayon, bit-bit na nila yung PDDS. I think yung important din na background dito, di ba? Kasi if you're the admin party, what you're pushing for is continuity by default. Syempre, hindi ka naman pwedeng kumontra sa policies ng incumbent if you're in the presidential elections, no? Duterte remains a very popular president, but we're seeing his numbers slide down a bit. Ostensibly, one of the reasons why that's happening, I think experts are pointing to the Farmally probe na may epekto din siya kahit papaano sa popularity ng president. So, and on top of Farmally, he has another thing to worry about, which is the ICC probe into not just his quote-unquote war on drugs, but even his time as Davao City Mayor, yung supposed Davao Death Squad. So parang there are these things that you consider on top of the baggage of being the administration party, the administration candidate. Kasi kung hindi ka magaling magmaneuver, you're gonna be put on the defensive and you're gonna have to defend the past 5-6 years, no? Which is probably why we have a caravan now. But that's a different topic altogether. So parang what we're seeing now nga, parang there's this chaos among the administration, or at least the personalities and parties allied with the Duterte camp. I think one thing that stood out also pala from today is that even if they announced via Martin Andanar and not PDP Laban pala, parang yun yung clear, PDP Laban has actually not commented on whether President Duterte will run for vice president or not. Si Andanar pala nagsabi nun. So parang he announced that, but he said, di ba, Monday pa. Bakit Monday pa? Bakit hindi na lang siya nag-file kanina if he wanted to challenge his own daughter directly, di ba? So it makes you think that they're trying to find time for possible last-minute negotiations. Who knows? Maybe as we speak now, negotiations are ongoing between the Duterte-allied parties and personalities. No? So, yun. But the question, I think, parang ito ata yung gustong itanong ni Lian sa akin. Parang how about the opposition, right? They are clearly not in our discussion technically right now. They're not in the headlines. Pero yung tanong nito, how will the opposition react to this? And in political terms, how will they make the most out of this? Like, how will they exploit this seeming chaos within administration parties? This is crucial also kasi wala pa kasi presidential preference survey since COC filing week. Presumably kasi wala pa namang final lineup of candidates for the 2022 election. So baka iniintay pa yan. So yun, parang ang daming nangyayari ngayon. Ang daming things that you have to consider. So the question is, yun nga, parang how how will not just the administration but even the opposition react to the events of hindi nga weekend, no, of Saturday specifically. For sure, tonight, tomorrow, possibly even up until Monday morning, like the discussions will be intense among the dealers, the movers and shakers of politics in the Philippines. So, ano ba mangyayari sa Monday, Dwight? Deadline na yun, di ba?
Yes, hopefully the substitution drama or the saga will come to a close on Monday and we'll have a complete picture of the 2022 race. Although I doubt that would happen kasi may other elements pa in the race. For example, the disqualification bid against Marcos. So even after the COC fight, the substitution week, kailangan pa nating abangan to. But for Monday, anong dapat nating i-expect? Of course, the pag-usapan natin, will Duterte really file his substitution papers for Vice President? Yung iba pa mga senatorial hopefuls na hindi pa nagpa-file ng kanilang substitution papers, will they finally join the race? For example, nandiyan si Harry Roque, Silvestre Bello III, may candidate kanina na nag-file ng withdrawal papers niya tapos in-indicate yung pangalan ni Labor Secretary doon, but we have not received a categorical statement from Secretary Bello. Then Guillermo Eleazar is expected to file his substitution papers for Monday. So these are some of the things that we should expect. Even the opposition, kung mayroon bang mag-join forces dito pagdating ng Lunes, because this is the deadline, this is the last day of the substitution for the 2020 elections. Sabi nga dun sa isang comment lang na nabasa ko, parang the drama goes on, but it's like a tragic comedy. So if this is a teleserye, sana matapos na siya para ma-introduce naman yung tao sa panibagong plotline next season. So with that said, thank you Lian, thank you Bea for joining us today and for trying to make sense of this substitution chaos that happened today and is likely to continue on Monday. I'm Dwight De Leon and this has been Rappler Recap.